I'm a business coach. I work with women in particular, and I help them to navigate how to be a great marketer and how to do well in selling in their business without having to be too far into their masculine energy, is probably how I would describe it. So it's not marketing in that pushy, buy it now kind of space. It's about really embracing our power of connection and how good we are at connecting with each other and using that as a strength in business.
Yeah, because we don't like your hashtag sausage strategy.
Yes, that's our cheeky way of poking fun at some of the very masculine, very pushy, kind of marketing strategies, as they're a little bit sausage.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who've never met Tash before, is I've been working with Tash now more than 2 years, and I'm always amazed at your wisdom for your young age.
Not that young anymore.
My mature vintage and your young wisdom is a good combination. So,
I
love it. So Tash, today we want to talk about your journey with wellbeing and how you've actually made some things completely non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. And what is it? Because we know, and we had a ranty chat on your podcast about, feeling that we need to talk up about being vibrant and healthy, and that's good for business. So, what are some of those non-negotiables for you?
Yeah, well, I think just to give you a little bit of background, when I first started my business, I came from a very busy corporate background. We share a corporate/consulting background, Bev. And one of the things that I almost had to detox myself from was 15, 16-hour days. I just had this belief that in order to be successful in business, I needed to work these super long days. And I even think when I was in corporate, like I was mostly being bolstered by caffeine, sugar, and alcohol. Those were my 3 non-negotiables, I guess. And that's how I got through. And when I started my business, I just kind of got into that same pattern. But it wasn't long before I was like, well, I started a business for a reason. I started so that I could be the boss and I could be a good boss to myself and give myself days off and look after my health and well-being. And it didn't take long for me to realize that I had basically blown out my adrenals crazy. And as soon as I started to pay attention to what was actually going on in my body, I realized just how much I had been living on the edge kind of thing. And so for me these days, my health is number one on my list, even in my business planning documents, which I can probably grab one out for you if I can grab it out of the cupboard. But I just really struggled to find a way to look after myself and work this craziness. And so I made it a non-negotiable that I now only work 20 hours a week. And I spend a lot of my time and energy working on my health and well-being. And it's actually a recovery. Like when you were talking about bringing out hope in a dark tunnel, for me, all of those signs that you talked about in terms of chronic illness, I had them. And so it's actually even the Spotlight series that we did, that interview where you were talking about being vibrant and, bringing your best to the table, and then reading the excerpts of your book. And I was like, you know what? I need to start treating this like a chronic illness and stop treating it like I'm a little bit tired all the time. And so, in my business plan for this year, my word of the year is strength. I have strength on my necklace. In my business plan, I have looking after my health and well-being as one of the top priorities, because my business is called Tash Corbin. And if Tash Corbin isn't able to bring her best to the table, there is no business. And that's a lot of lost income, and that's a lot of lost, momentum as well.
So what are some of the things that you typically do? What is it that makes up a day that's really fabulous for you?
Yeah. Well, I think number one is the limiting my work hours. That's probably core. Number 2 is like I start my day with my lemon water. I'm a little bit spoiled. My partner brings it to me in bed, which is very lovely. But I know you interviewed Kate Arthey, and I've done my genetic assessment with her. And one of the things that I need is a slow start to the morning. So I start my morning with lemon water, a big glass of water, and a walk on the beach. And I didn't do it today. I'm in Singapore, not at home. But when I'm at home, that's one of my non-negotiables. Gluten-free is now a non-negotiable for me as well. And I feel it when I slip up. I feel it when there might be gluten in something, or, I get something that's, has gluten in it. I got suckered in by some kind of tart the other night, and then I was like, oh, why did I do that? And so it enforces my resolve to stay gluten-free. That's definitely one of them. And also I actually do a little bit of intermittent fasting as well. I don't eat a lot, and I'm finding that that's really quite good for me, and I can cope with it. I don't get hungry most of the time, one of the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, I think. And so, yeah, they're some of my non-negotiables. I'm still a work in progress. I definitely would not say that I have got this all figured out. I'm still, have an extra weight that I'm carrying, that it's related to my hormones. But my non-negotiables are not just around the food and exercise. There's also, I think, a lot of my weight issues in particular have come from stress and just that constant worry that goes around and around in your brain. And when I started my business, I retired my partner and we moved to the beach 6 months in, and I just took all of the weight of responsibility of our lives onto my shoulders. And I've been carrying that around ever since. And so for me, it's also looking after my psychological well-being and noticing when some of those heavy thought patterns are coming and I'm feeling that pressure, and just releasing it. And sometimes it's as simple as writing it down, and all of a sudden it's not that crazy anymore. Yeah. So I'm very conscious of not getting myself bogged down in that stress and worry state. And yeah, just some of those little simple things that will support my body and help me to recover.
Yeah, and I know that when we worked together, we were talking about your sleep at the time, because you've always been a really good sleeper.
Yeah.
And part of that whole adrenal fatigue and burnout was that you were also still not sleeping very well, and we just fixed a few things.
Yeah.
And away you were.
And look, I've always, like I do say, I've always been a really good sleeper. And that was one of the things that actually highlighted to me just how badly fatigued I was, and just how much I was relying on a solid 9 to 10 hours of sleep every night when I moved to New Zealand, and I was struggling to sleep. And because when we lived in Bali, I slept 10 hours a night and I was so productive. And then we moved to New Zealand, and all of a sudden I just could not get to sleep at night, and I couldn't even get in bed. Like, I was getting cranky at myself for not getting in bed. And that was a huge shift for me, for sure, was actually having those sessions with you and working on that sleep. And for me, it didn't take long for me to realize I am not going to survive this winter if I don't get through. Like, I really felt like it was a matter of survival for me. If I don't get this sleep. And I guess as well, having been someone who's always slept so well, I noticed the difference when I wasn't sleeping well. And I mean, even today, like, I don't know if you can tell, I'm a little puffy under here. We flew 7.5 hours yesterday. And then last night was a little bit disturbed because we picked up our puppy Munchkin, and she was a little bit on edge about the fact that she had us back again. And so even then, having a couple of breaks in sleep last night, I feel it already today. Like, for me, sleep is such a non-negotiable. I didn't even think to mention it. Like, that's how important it is to me. So most nights I'm in bed by 9. I'm asleep by 9:30, 10. And I really do look after myself, and I give myself that beautiful slow start in the morning as well. So I'm never abruptly woken up. I am woken up by a gentle, loving touch on the shoulder from Davey and a cup of lemon water. And I don't force myself down to 5 or 6 hours of sleep. I don't make myself, like, I like a good 9 hours sleep, and that's what I'm going to stick to. Yeah.
Well, there's just so much evidence, so if you're in doubt, if you're listening and you're in doubt about just listening to Tash, working aspirationally, mine is also to work 20 hours a week. I've got my sleep and all that shiz sorted, but it's finding that space, that sweet spot where you can thrive, because there's just so many more bodies of evidence that sleep it has to be non-negotiable. Yeah. And if you are running your own business, and like you say, you are your brand too, you are your brand and your business, and wanting to show up. And you mentioned something earlier about managing your thoughts. So in the book, Hope in a Dark Tunnel, I talk about the 4 aspects of ourselves. And we talked about some of the physical aspects. So obviously we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about good quality sleep and movement, So you talked about moving, going and walking on the beach. And then I talk about the mental aspect. So the stress, the negative self-talk, any of that actually consumes your mind. And then you also have the emotional aspects, because, for example, when, like me now, doing this launch, I had set an intention with the beautiful Claire Tate that my vision is that this will be successful and I will allow it to unfold. So I won't be too prescriptive about how I get there, but I will do the work and I will monitor the track, which is your thing too, but I won't be attached to the outcome. And, I've had to actively manage the emotion, because every now and again the sort of fear rises that I won't get this book published. And I go, okay, what's going on? Stop, take stock, work out what I need to do, to take care of those emotions and not push them aside, actually work on processing them. And you mentioned writing. So for me, writing those things down sometimes just helps unlock the subconscious and get it out, as do a few other tools. And then obviously the other one is that whole soulful aspect of yourself. So just even the fact that you have a gentle morning, that you know what feeds your soul, that walk on the beach, all of those things. So finding where those pockets of joy are in your life. So that's to me where, I can see when we integrate those 4 aspects of ourselves, that's where well-being comes from.
Absolutely. And I think, we live in a society that hyper values busy and being busy. And I've even had to detox myself when people say, how's business? And I'll say busy, like it's a good thing, like busy, it's so busy. But it's not busy. Like, I don't even know why I say it. And so I've had to really pay attention to my language in that space. And I think for me, the other thing, particularly with the soulful side of my business, is that I am excited to do my work each day. It doesn't feel like hard work. And I don't need to wear this badge of honor that says I do stuff I don't like in order to hustle and get the results that I want. I really don't. If I don't like doing something that's part of my business, I'll either not do it or I'll get someone else to do it for me. And that is, the ultimate in my life, is being able to always do the fun things that you love and the things that you want to do, and doing less and less of the stuff that you don't like. And that lights up my soul. Every time I'm actively engaged in something, it's something that lights me up and makes me feel excited. And, even last week I was doing a little challenge with people in my business, and I just said, if 12-year-old Tash could see me now, that colouring in and having fun and playing with money and, talking to you guys is my job, she would just be so stoked. She's like, Tash, you did it right. This is amazing. This is my future. And that makes me feel so happy that I've been able to do that. And I think business is such an avenue for that. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I see so many women in the corporate world. For me, I remember so vividly, my mum passed away. I'd gone back to work. It was about 3 weeks later. I'd had to take leave without pay because, you get 2 days to bereave a loved one in the corporate world. Thanks for that. 2 whole days. Woo! 3 if you organise the funeral. And so I remember I was back at work a few weeks after my mum had passed away, and I had to go to the bathroom and cry in secret because I didn't want anyone to think it was impacting on my performance at work. Of course my emotions impact on my performance at work, but we're just so in that corporate environment and in that setting, you can't show your emotional self. You can't be your emotional self. You can't. I did a podcast interview with Aisha Kennedy on Brilliant Misfits, and I was talking about dealing with the loss of my mom and the corporate world and that kind of thing. And I started crying on that podcast, and I got so much love and I got so much beautiful, positive feedback from people. Now, if I had been at my desk job, sitting at my desk having a little cry, everyone's like, what's wrong? Either go home or get it sorted. Or, we can't be a whole person often in some of those settings. And that's what I love about having a business, and particularly a personal brand business, is that I get to be my whole unapologetic emotional self and cry at dog videos and cry on the internet. And it doesn't mean that I'm not good at my job. I'm not good at my work. And so, I love that. And I think that that's why, for me, like, your message and my message actually go hand in hand with each other. And sometimes all you need to do is step away from that corporate construct and create something where you get to be the boss and you get to decide what your priorities are. And I actually think that will be to the betterment and the health and well-being of women around the world. And so, yeah.
And I think you're touching on something there, Tash, which I've observed in even the entrepreneurial online world, is there's a level of perfectionism that sometimes limits somebody from actually starting, because in that corporate construct, we had this facade on.
Yeah.
And we'd show up and be bold and brave and all these things that we needed to do in a masculine environment. And yet sometimes we've carried that through. And that lack of integration with your true self is also where you start to get disease, So by not showing up as yourself every day, it can create that difficulty. And if it's there long enough, that level of stress on your very soul is very, very likely to lead to some level of illness. So thank you for bringing that up. That's really helpful. And then my last question for you, Tash, is, like all of us, we're human and fallible, and we can fall off the wagon. So what are some of your strategies to get back on?
Okay, so number one, I am a very social person. I'm very socially driven. So my first step is usually to reach out to, whether it be a health coach, like with you, with the sleep stuff, I was like, I'm not going to fix this on my own. I've tried. It's not going to work. I need some kind of conversation around this, and I need some external strategies. But it could also just be reaching out to a friend, or even talking to, honestly, like, one of the big reasons why he brings me my lemon water in the morning is because I said, this is a non-negotiable for me. I want to start my day right. And yet, I was only hitting the mark 50% of the time. And he's like, well, I'll bring it for you. Like, I can do that. And for me, like, that has changed so much about me. Like, it's such a small thing. So yeah, for me, definitely other people, and bringing other people into the equation. And then secondly is also realigning myself to that goal and vision of myself. That's why strength is here. That's why strength is my word. I'm running a conference in March next year, and my vision is that I'm standing on stage fit and healthy and vibrant and strong. And so for me, that's also very powerful, is to realign to that. Well, I can't get there if I'm off the wagon here. The things that I do now are going to impact on that event in 9 months' time. I need to start thinking about, that vision. And then the third one, which is kind of the opposite of those two things, right? I adopt myself into other people. I'm like, Tash, you won't get there. I kind of give myself a little rousing. But then the third thing is I forgive myself. Yeah. I'm really gentle on myself, because sometimes that donut just wins. Sometimes, sleeping in and not going for a walk on the beach wins. And that's okay. I'm not here to live in this rigid world where every time I do something wrong, I wrap myself over the knuckles. I'm here to live in a world where I experience pleasure and joy and fun and excitement each day. And sometimes that means I fall off the wagon. And the more I practice, the more, Brittany just said, I wonder if I can get my Davey to bring me lemon water. Ask. You never know.
Exactly.
Right? I felt so uncomfortable asking. I mean, that's another thing, right, is get comfortable with asking for what you need. It took so much practice for me to ask for a gluten-free meal on a plane, and now it's like a little checkbox. It took so, not that I eat a lot of the food on the plane, let's be honest. But like I even asking at restaurants, like, is there gluten-free bread with that available? Or can I have it with, like, it felt so uncomfortable. We get so uncomfortable with asking for what we need, and I'm practicing that. And sometimes I'll start a sentence with David like, I'm really uncomfortable asking you this question, but do you think you could bring me lemon water in the morning? Like, I know it sounds weird, but it's really important for my health. And, I think that's the big thing is, like, be gentle on yourself and know that this is a practice, and that particularly for those of us who are in the burnout, fatigue, crazy hours, masculine orientated kind of energy, I call it detoxing from that. Like, I had to detox from the corporate world, and I'm still detoxing from the corporate world. And so it's all a practice. And I know this is the, like, worst example to give on your thing, Bev, but they talk about, like, quitting smoking, and, like, the more times you try to quit smoking, the more likely you are to succeed. It's not about deciding that you need to quit smoking the first time. It's actually about deciding that no matter what happens, you'll keep trying. And I think that's it for me with my health and well-being. No matter what happens, I will keep trying. Even when I'm, like, crying in my bed going, I'm just going to be fat forever and I can't figure this out. I know that tomorrow is a new day, and I will keep trying. And I am like a dog with a bone when it comes to my health and well-being. And I've attracted practitioners who are like that too. You've been like that with my sleep. Work with a naturopath, Jeanette, on my hormones, because a very weird hormone imbalance going on. And she's like a dog with a bone. We're going to try this now. No, we're going to work out what this is. I saw Sanessa's interview about parasites. Davey and I are doing a parasite cleanse. Like, we're going to work this out, and I will just keep practicing, and I will just keep trying. And that's the best that I can do, and not trying to find the perfect thing and get it right and never fail. That's not actually in my world. That reality just doesn't exist for me. The best I can do is promise myself I will keep trying, and that's what I'm going to do.
Exactly, and that's why I say we're human and fallible. And so, if 80% of the time you're doing what you intended, you're still going to get there. It may take a little longer, but that's life. That's really life. It's just the way the world is and the way we are, Yeah. Because I think that level, where you do, fall off the wagon. I can remember when, following one of many eating protocols in my lifetime, and I used to have this thought that, oh, well, I've had the wrong thing, so I'll just, like, go for it badly the whole day. I mean, how warped is that? Because I thought that was imperfection. And so, like, I'm already imperfect, I'll just keep going. Instead of, like you say, just accepting, like, okay, I slipped up, right. This next choice, I'm going to make a different one.
Yeah.
Instead of making the whole day,
all or nothing thinking. And that's probably my biggest issue that I'm still working on. I'm working on it with Claire Tate, the kinesiologist who you mentioned earlier. So that's something that definitely has come up for me as well. And it's a big one. And it's that we also have that, like, I'll start again on Monday mentality. Yeah. And so then you blow out for like 4 days of just nothing. By the time Monday comes around, you've got no energy. There's no way you're going to actually get back on the horse because you're just so far gone. And so, it's definitely a big one for me. Even coming here to Singapore, I brought my blender, right? Because I love my beautiful green smoothies in the morning. So I brought my blender with me over to Singapore, and I said to Davey, we're going to go and get vegetables and coconut water, and I'm going to have them there so that I can have. And as we're walking to the supermarket, I'm like, I forgot how much I love food in Singapore, and there's pork buns and there's, chili crab, and there's all these things there. But we still bought the vegetables and everything for my smoothie ingredients on the way home. So yes, my plan was to come here and have nothing but smoothies and do a little bit of a detox and a cleanse. That's probably not going to happen. I've already booked in for vegetarian Japanese food with the Lady Posse on Monday, but the 80% thing, right? So for the days where we don't have something exciting to go out and do, I'm going to have my smoothies. I've got everything that I need, and I will make sure that it happens. And we were at the supermarket and apples were 2 for $20. $2 for $20 here. And so I needed to go and find things that were appropriately priced for my budget. But I probably spent 4 times the amount that I would on my smoothie ingredients. But it's that important to me, I'm still going to do it. And it's cheaper for us to go out and eat cheap street food, but I'm still going to make my smoothies and look after myself while I'm here, because I know that's the fastest way for me to recover from my flights. That's the fastest way for me to make sure I'm really effective here. And it's also really aligning me to that vision of myself on stage in March.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being with me today. We've had a good all-round chat and got a bit ranty about things. So that's awesome. We love doing that. So thanks for joining us. And you can also, if you haven't already pledged, please go to hopeinadarktunnel.com and you can pre-order your book. There's all sorts of things there for you to help you make that next step in your well-being journey. So thanks, Tash.
Thank you so much, Bev. And can I just say one last thing?
Yeah.
If the sleep thing has pricked your ears up, Bev's sleep program is part of one of the bundles. Make sure that you grab it, because Bev knows sleep. If there's one area that you need to sort out, it's the sleep stuff. And I really do encourage people to get onto the sleep stuff with Bev, because she runs Sleep Timber. She owns the trademark. That's how good she is at it. So yes, please do go and support Hope in a Dark Tunnel.
Yes, thank you. And so all that's left for me to say is bye for now, and let's live the fab life together.